Have you ever wondered how the American Revolution came to be? What events led up to this seismic shift in history? Well, it's time to dust off the pages of history and dive right into the mid-18th century. This was an epic of exploration, expansion, and escalating tensions between European powers vying for control of the vast North American continent. Enter the French and Indian War, a crucial conflict that set the stage for what was to come. A clash of titans, the British and French, backed by their respective Native American allies, fought fiercely for territorial dominance. This wasn't just a regional skirmish. Oh no, it was a global conflict, part of the larger 7 Years' War that would forever change the course of history. Its significance? This war served as a prelude to the American Revolution, planting the seeds of discontent that would later blossom into full-blown rebellion. So, let's set the stage by taking a look at the mid-18th century, a time of rising tensions between European powers. Imagine this, it's the mid-18th century, and the North American continent is a battlefield for European powers. The French and Indian War, a conflict fought between 1754 and 1763, was an outgrowth of long-standing rivalries among European powers. These rivalries were not just about power and control, but also about trade. North America, rich in resources and offering lucrative fur trade, was an attractive prize for both the British and the French. Joining the fray were various Native American tribes, who allied themselves with either the French or the British, depending on their relationships and interests. The British had the Iroquois Confederacy on their side, while the French had alliances with tribes such as the Huron and Algonquin. The war officially kicked off with a battle at Fort Necessity in Pennsylvania. A young George Washington, then a colonel in the British Army, had built this makeshift fort as a defensive measure against French forces. However, the fort was soon overwhelmed, and Washington was forced to surrender. This early defeat, though a setback, didn't dampen British spirits. As the war progressed, a series of battles played out across the continent. From the wilderness of the Ohio Valley to the rugged landscape of Nova Scotia, the war was fought on multiple fronts. The British, initially at a disadvantage due to the French's strong alliances with Native American tribes, slowly gained ground. They adopted a policy of promising to limit westward expansion, which won them the support of more Native American tribes. One of the defining moments of this war was the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. This decisive encounter marked a significant turning point in the conflict, setting the stage for the ultimate British victory, the end of French colonial rule in North America, and the course of history that would lead to the birth of the United States. In 1759, the British forces, led by General Wolfe, clashed with the French at Quebec. Picture this, the year is 1759, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The French and Indian War is in full swing, and the British forces, under the leadership of General James Wolfe, are preparing for a decisive clash against the French on the Plains of Abraham. This wasn't just any battle. It was a confrontation that would change the course of history. The Plains of Abraham, an open area just outside the walls of Quebec, became the stage for one of the key battles of the war. Wolfe, an ambitious and daring general, planned a surprise attack on the French forces. The strategy was risky, but it paid off. The British troops scaled the cliffs under the cover of darkness, and by morning they were lined up for battle on the plains. The French, led by General Louis-Joseph de Montcalm, were taken by surprise. Despite their valiant efforts, the British forces proved too strong. Both Wolfe and Montcalm were fatally wounded, yet the battle raged on. By the end of the day, the British had emerged victorious. This was more than a military triumph. It was a turning point in the war, signaling the beginning of the end for French control of North America. The Battle of the Plains of Abraham was a game-changer. It shifted the balance of power in the war, ultimately leading to British dominance in North America. The French, despite their best efforts, could not recover from this loss. Within a few years, they were forced to cede most of their North American territories to the British. The impact of this battle was far-reaching. It shaped the geopolitical landscape of the continent, setting the stage for the American Revolution and the birth of the United States. This victory led to the end of French colonial rule in North America, and so the stage was set for a new chapter in history. The signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1763 marked the end of the war. A formal recognition of British triumph, this treaty was more than a mere piece of parchment. It was a shifting tide in the world's geopolitical landscape. The French and Indian War had been a long, draining conflict stretching over 7 years. Its conclusion brought about a significant reshuffling of territories. The British, as victors, claimed vast territories previously controlled by the French. From the icy expanse of Newfoundland to the lush sugar islands of the Caribbean, British dominion extended across North America. But the spoils of war came at a cost. The war had been expensive, incredibly so. The British government found itself saddled with a colossal debt. A debt they believed should be shared by the American colonies, who had benefited from the protection and territorial gains provided by the British victory. And so, the British government introduced a series of taxes in the colonies to help repay this war debt. But as we know, these taxes were not well received. The Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, the Townshend Acts, each one met with resistance, protest, and sometimes outright rebellion. The colonists were not willing to bear the financial burden of a war they believed was fought for the benefit of the British Empire, not their own. The British government's inability to understand this sentiment, their insensitivity to the colonists' perspective, only fueled the fire of discontent. The seeds of rebellion, sown during the French and Indian War, began to sprout. The colonists' sense of alienation from their mother country grew, their resentment of British rule intensified, and their desire for self-governance solidified. In the grand scheme of things, the French and Indian War was more than a fight for territory. It was the spark that lit the fuse of revolution. This debt set the stage for increased tensions between the British government and the American colonies. The echoes of this conflict would reverberate through history, culminating in a revolutionary war that would birth a new nation. The seeds of rebellion were sown during the French and Indian War. As the dust settled from the conflict, the British Empire found itself in a precarious position. Despite their victory, the war had left them with a colossal debt. To recoup these losses, the British government implemented a series of taxes on the American colonies. However, these measures were met with fierce resistance from the colonists, who felt that they were being unfairly taxed without representation in the British Parliament. This growing discontent would later fuel the flame of revolution. One notable instance was the infamous Boston Tea Party in 1773, where American colonists, dressed as Mohawk Indians, dumped 342 chests of tea into the Boston harbor as a protest against the Tea Act imposed by Britain. This act of defiance was a significant milestone on the path to revolution, demonstrating the colonists' willingness to resist British authority. As tensions escalated, the colonists began to unify under the banner of independence. In 1776, representatives from 13 colonies convened at the Second Continental Congress and made a monumental decision. They drafted and adopted the Declaration of Independence, a document that boldly asserted their right to self-governance and freedom from British rule. The Declaration marked the official start of the American Revolution, a war fought not just on battlefields, but in the hearts and minds of the people. The seeds of rebellion, sown during the French and Indian War, had grown into a full-fledged revolution that would eventually give birth to a new nation, the United States of America. The French and Indian War, while often overshadowed by the American Revolution, played a crucial role in shaping American history. It was the prelude that set the stage for the colonies' fight for independence, highlighting the power of unity, the desire for freedom, and the willingness to stand against injustice. As we delve into the intricacies of the American Revolution in our next segment, we'll continue to see the ripple effects of this pivotal conflict. So there you have it, the French and Indian War, a pivotal moment in history. This mid-18th century conflict, a battle for North American supremacy between the British and the French, set the stage for the American Revolution. The Battle of the Plains of Abraham, a defining moment, marked the end of French colonial rule in North America. But victory didn't come cheap for the British. The debt from this war led to heightened tensions with the American colonies, sowing seeds of rebellion that would sprout into full-blown revolution. From the Boston Tea Party to the Declaration of Independence, the groundwork was laid during the French and Indian War. Though often overshadowed by the American Revolution, the significance of this war in shaping the course of American history is undeniable. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the fascinating tapestry of our shared past. See you in the next video.